We are live. I just did a flip through of what was supposed to be the full workbooks and the test and quizzes, but I only got the workbooks in because I got so excited about this video that I forgot to do the test and quizzes booklet. So we're going to start with the test and quizzes booklet. If we haven't met yet, hi there. I'm Elaine from The Same Page Together. We are a Christ-centered home of learning, and on this channel we talk about all things family. We like to share what works for us as we strive to encourage you on your journey in life and family. But we are going to get into the comparison after. I have linked the unit flip through if you want a nice fluid walk through that in the description box for you. Let's check out the test and quizzes booklet. Oh man, so you've got your grading tracker, and you've got unit 1 mid-unit quiz. That's one page, and then the test is a couple of pages for the whole unit. And then unit 2, 1 page, and then the full test is a few pages. Then unit 3, 1 page again, and then the full unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. Unit 4 mid-unit quiz, 1. Unit 4 test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. Unit 5 mid-unit is 1 page. Unit 5 test is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. 1 page for mid-unit quiz in unit 2 is 2 pages. And then the unit end quiz test is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. Final exam. Now, all of these ones are open note. And are they open book? Let's see if that was on there. But you can refer to your workbook as needed, but not use the textbook. So not open book, just open note. The final test is closed book, closed note, covering the whole course. And that one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 pages and 104 questions. All right, so there is that. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you to those who came over to check that out. If you're not here for a comparison, then this is where you can tune out. But hey, while you're here, you might as well check it out with me, right? So I said in the previous video that there were 11 units that are at least touched on in this course. I think I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, actually 12. I was off by 1. So we're going to kind of see if we can figure out how we're going to talk about this. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box. I'm happy to answer any questions, whether you're live or on the replay. Happy to answer questions. If you hear kiddo noises in the background, they are fine. Their dad is with them. They're above me. I'm in the basement. They're up above, but we may hear them. If you heard them in the last video, they are fine. They really are. Okay, so Unit 1's theme is Wonders of Life. I found that looking through the course, but also looking through here, we clearly see kingdom, different keywords here, right? We have a keyword of chemistry and the scientific method. So I found that this unit had bits of chemistry and bits of kingdoms and classification. So in chemistry, we have things like the scientific method, introduction to chemistry, and then, all of these different bits in here. I'm pretty sure that the yeast is used to living organism lab is in here as an activity. If you want a full flip through this, I've linked it in the description box. I've linked all of them. Safety rules, labs. So this is really where you get into labs in the younger years. But this is actually not even for all the way down to 3rd grade. Good gracious. Okay, so this may be tricky on a live. Hopefully you guys will bear with me. So you have the scientific method. And this one you do like a little pop-out thing that you cut and paste in their student journal. And it's just a basic 2-page lesson, right? So if we go to the scientific method here, page 8, here, the scientific method, we have stuff going on here, stuff happening here, vocabulary. It's only 2 pages as well, but remember that this is just the workbook. What they're going to cover in the textbook is likely going to be more than 2 pages on the scientific method, right? So it is touched on, but I think it's going to go deeper. Other things that we saw in here, I was looking for that activity, right? I'm pretty sure I saw it when I was flipping through. Oh, here we go. States of matter. No. States of matter. Water experiment expanding. I don't know that we're gonna see it. Sodium. So when I went through this, I went like lesson by lesson, and that took a long time. I do not think you guys want to sit with me as we go lesson by lesson. So, good gracious. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Molecules, chemical, physical properties, identifying chemical changes. I'm not sure. But if you've done this unit, will you let me know? Do you end up doing a yeast lab where they kind of go through and see the growth of yeast with sugar? I'm pretty sure I saw it in there. They're going to go into like doing just yeast with sugar, different things. I'm pretty sure that's in here. However, it is a full-blown lab for them to do and then do a lab report on kind of thing in this one. And then other things that we touch on, it's just like touches throughout, like, right, the cell, small and mighty, and then observing enzymes going on there. So we don't cover everything that is covered in the chemistry unit, but we do cover some chemistry in this biology course. Now, kingdoms and classifications, if we take a look at that, we have Introduction to Living Things, which the study of life, likely very similar. And then they have cells and classifications. We have cells here, right? Taxonomy, classifying life. And then I know that we did see some of this. I've read those things through the flip through. Here we have fungi down here. Here's this one, right here, these two proteaceae in here. And then we have non-vascular and vascular. I know I saw that. I know I saw a lesson on this, invertebrates. I know I saw these things in there, but they weren't necessarily in Unit 1. So I found that kingdoms and classifications was covered throughout Units 1 through 5, depending on when it was needed. Does that make sense? Like, so when we got into plant and covered things, then they brought in these lessons in the Unit 2 where there was botany, right? And so kingdoms and classifications is covered multiple times throughout, pretty well covering every single one of these lessons. But again, we're looking at, this is the whole workbook, right? A lesson here is a couple of pages, and the workbook itself has a couple of pages of just note-taking. So it's probably going to go more in depth. That's my thought in there. And so if we go into botany, that's going to be in Unit 2. Sorry, moving my stuff around. Unit 2 botany, we have again, if you want full flip through of the units, that's linked below, of the high school units, linked below. Each of these units is linked below if you're interested in that. So we have here Introduction to Botany. Let's see, can we show you both? Let's be smart about this, right? We have Introduction to Botany. And then we have the life cycle of plant. Here we have plant cells. Different parts of the plant. We have the parts of the plant when we talk about them in there. Let's go to that one. Lessons, page 17. Parts of a plant. Here, it's going to cover, where was it? I had to leave in a little diagram. Here, it talks about them all in one, right? Over here, we have a lesson on plant roots, a lesson on plant stems, a lesson on leaves and identifying leaves. And when we do have a lesson in here on leaves and identifying leaves. So there's some similarities. And then growth and movement and stuff. And so that's probably going to be part of the life cycle, right? So parts of the plant broken up, life cycle. There is seeds in here. In this one, we have a germination lesson. And then flowers here is in 2 parts, where we have pollination of flowers, fertilization, and seed dispersal. And then we have here vascular and non-vascular plants. Again, we saw that in kingdoms and classifications. We're seeing it here where that's not necessarily in botany, right? And then plant cells here. It's down here, but it's up here in the high school one. Growth of movement, growing plants. And there is a lab where you're growing seeds and observing and all of that. There's a growing seeds activity in this one as well. So it's probably very similar, but you're probably looking at different things here, right? And then observing and taking notes and all of that. And then we have, this one does not seem to have much about trees, unless they're included in some of these. And then here we have fruits and vegetables, which is potentially covered in here, but in carnivorous and poisonous plants, they would probably have to be within one of these things. So we're already in Unit 2 looking at it. If your kiddos have done these units, they are going to be getting a review of the things that they were taught and then building deeper, because again, these units, the lessons are a couple pages, the workbook notes are a couple pages. If we go into Unit 3, this one is marine biology. Well, we have a marine biology unit. This one's actually free. The PDF is free if you want to try that one, if you're new to the good and the beautiful and have younger kiddos. And part of the reason I'm showing this is if you're doing the high school course and you're finding that your kiddo is going through it quickly, or again, that you need to track hours. I talked about tracking hours in the high school language arts one, and you need it to be a little more robust. You can check out these units and see what you want to bring in to enhance. So they're covering a lot of similar things, right? So here we have polar food chain. That was in somewhere, but maybe it's not right here. Marine invertebrates. Here we have introduction to ocean and marine biology, ocean characteristics, ocean zones here. I know we saw in here sunlit zone, twilight zone, deep sea. That's 3 different lessons that this one is covered in one. So this one's definitely going deeper. So it's not like you're not necessarily going to be coming to these for the course book itself, but if you want more reading for your kiddo, you can check out the book packs for the courses. And I'm showing you on this one because it's a free one, but also we're here. And then if you want more activity, getting the grade 7 through 8 journal and having your kiddo, or the PDF, maybe get the PDF, and then printing out the lesson extensions and having your kiddo do the lesson extensions, that could add a little more robustness to the high school workbook. If you need them to be doing more work, I would suggest bringing in the lesson extensions. Again, get the digital version and print out just the extensions because they don't need the rest of it. And then get the book packs or correlated reading that come, like here's this one's lesson extensions. It talks about it. And optional reading for grades 7 through 8. You could get these books, have them read them, have them do the lesson extensions if you need a little more. And if you want to look at what I mean by the student journals and stuff, I have these all linked below that you can, I even do comparisons. We take a look at all of the lesson extensions. So take a look at that down there. I also go through and flip through the books for you. So that might be helpful. So they're all linked. Okay, so the 5 oceans. We have ocean characters and ocean zones, but not necessarily like really going into the 5 different oceans. So that's going to go into there. And then seawater and sea turtles. We have marine reptiles. And then we have cycles and decomposers. They might be covered in the invertebrates. That might be covered. And then tides, waves, and currents. We have tides and zones here. Marine life, coral reefs. I did see down here. We have a lab here. Intertidal ecosystems. So intertidal zones. Coastal and wetland formation. So we're going here, right? We're looking at ecosystems and wetland formations and stuff. So ecosystems is also brought in and sprinkled in throughout the units depending on where it's needed, right? So I'm seeing it in units 3 through 5. We have things like, let's see, pyramid and tropic level. So we talk about the polar food chain and polar mammals, and there's like the pyramid in there. We have interactions of living things, biomes, aquatic biomes, ecological succession. So here we're seeing some different biomes and things. So ecosystems is also covered, sprinkled in, kind of like kingdoms and classifications. They kind of just bring it in wherever it's needed, which I like, because as you're doing these younger units, you're like, oh, okay, touching on a bunch of different things, but to dive deeper, like it's a whole separate unit, right? So many people wonder what order to do it in. I mean, you could take what order to do younger units, and you could take a leaf from this book and kind of follow the units and how they did it. That could be helpful. I know that if you want ground level basis in like these life sciences, I would definitely do kingdoms and classifications and ecosystems and then dive into the other things. But again, it just depends on what you're doing and what you're needing. So we're seeing coral reefs here, ocean floor and deep sea is even in here, and ocean exploration. So I think sharks and stuff we see in another unit, but there's an idea there where you're getting a lot more, you're covering a lot of the same things. So it would be review with building on. All right, unit 4. This unit gives me the heebie-jeebies, but to each their own. I'm sure there are students and people out there, parents out there that love it. So this is Wonders of the Animal Kingdom Part 1. Again, kingdoms. So kingdoms and classifications is going to come into play. Animals, wonders, life, ecosystems come into play, right? So here we can see we're going to get arthropods. Here's fish. Here's the sharks and fish that we were seeing. We're seeing some reptiles in here. So this unit has arthropods, reptiles, amphibians, and fish, and then the kingdoms and ecosystems, right? So we have arthropods here. We're going to see introduction to arthropods. It's just, talking about some of them. So introduction to insects, we're really going to get more insect stations, bees and wasps, butterflies, ants, insect defenses, arachnids, crustaceans, and that. So here we're just getting into we have specific things like anemones, corals, jellyfish, snails, octopuses, clams, segmented worms, insects, arachnids, and crustaceans. We saw that in here. Insects, arachnids, and crustaceans. So where this is 3 separate lessons, this is 1 lesson. So they're kind of condensing this, which I'm sure is appreciated for those of us who's not our favorite. This goes into a little deeper because they need the full deeper in a sense, right? It's very well possible that, again, this is like 2 pages, right, per lesson. It's possible that all of that is covered within the textbook of this one. I do not know. We have not done it yet. If you are interested in an end of year review where I kind of talk about all this, and see how deep it was. I'd have to talk to, probably have to have my kiddos input. I don't know. If that's an interesting video, let me know and I'll see how I can make that work, because I'm not going to be doing the course myself and the textbook's all online. But I could get feedback from the kiddo if that's interested. Dissection lab, that was definitely not done in any of these because that's a high school level thing. Core data. Let's see. Let's pull in reptiles, amphibians, and fish here, right? So we have turtle, snakes, lizards, crocodilians, tarantulas. Here we have snakes, lizards, crocodilians. They have their own as well. And then turtles, terrapins, and tortoises. So they have their own there. And then arachnids, probably where the tarantulas is going to come in here, is my guess. Then we have newts and salamanders. Frogs and toads, we do have frogs and toads here. Newts and salamanders. And then we have fish. Fish are covered. So it pretty well covers everything that's in reptiles, amphibians, and fish. I'm sure it covers everything here one way or another. And we see butterflies and things on the cover. So I'm sure that the bees, wasps, and butterflies are not going to be left out. So if we get in, this is the unit 5 is where what I found interesting, where we've been seeing that mostly it's a review, right? They're just covering what's been covered in these other units and then going deeper, likely. A review plus building. Birds is kind of a thick unit to begin with. But what I noticed with the birds unit, so this is Wonders of the Animal Kingdom Part 2. This has birds as well as mammals. I did not really find, even like flipping through it, I did not find a whole lot of this specifically laid out in here. It's laid out very differently in the high school one. Now, marine birds are brought up probably in the marine biology section. It talks about birds, and we get penguins, I'm sure, in the polar animals and unique beaks probably in there somewhere, right? But when it comes to over here, we're getting introduction to birds fitted for flight. So we do have flight, lesson 4 here. And then feeding strategies, nests and eggs, bird vocalization, migration, behaviors, and conservation. Here we're having bird watching, parts of a bird life cycle, poultry. So nests and eggs is going to have life cycle. Poultry, I don't know. Big and small birds of prey. So behaviors, migration, feeding strategies, those kinds of things are going to be covered in there. But it was just interesting. Oh, here's bird migration. It was interesting to see how they laid out the things very differently in this bird section than they did in this one. But I do like how they have that laid out there. I'm sure these are all covered. It was interesting to see the differences in how it was laid out. Okay, so mammals. Clearly we have bird and then introduction to mammals. So we're jumping into the other one. Here we have introduction to mammals, reproductive strategies of mammals, because we're the difference between laying eggs and live births and things. And this is kind of going to touch on the reproductive strategy. So it's going to touch in how humans fit into the mammals, right? Without going all the way into humans yet, I believe. But we also do get bats, echolocation, and flight. And in this one, we get bats down here and rodents and rabbits down here. And then insectivores, which are not technically listed in here. So I don't know if they for sure are covered in here because we haven't done all of these units yet. So I don't know. But hoofed mammals are these 2 lessons. Odd-toed and even-toed are the hoofed mammals. Then we have elephants and manatees and other animals. And then carnivores, we have those. Aquatic mammal characteristics, so it's going to bring in, those bits. Conservation. So I'm not seeing any marsupials are probably going to be in here somewhere. I believe I saw something about them. Maybe that's what this one was. Other near, no, I don't know. I believe I saw something in there. And canines, I did see pictures of canines, probably in the carnivores with the felines. And primates are probably in there somewhere. Theories of origin and adaptation, energy pyramid and activity and ecology. So that goes in a little deeper for sure, but it does cover all of these things. All right, now we're going to get into Unit 6. Now, Unit 6 is all the human wonders of human body. So, what I found in here is that it does cover health in the physical body, maturation, sexual reproduction, and health in the human mind. That's what's covered in this unit. But these units, I found that from what I can see, is that it's taking bits and pieces from each of these units and not going too far in depth. So like when we get to the reproductive system, it does not go into everything that maturation and reproduction goes into. And they do have a bit, they recommend going through that just so that you are aware of what your kid's going to see and read and learn. But there's not this goes in depth and it covers everything and it is very well done. I highly, highly recommend it. So if your kiddo has not done it, by the time they get to this, I would recommend definitely including this with that lesson. Have them do this unit. So needing more robustness or not, if your child hasn't done it by now, they should do that unit. It's very well done. But we have here introduction to the human body. How does the body form? Then we have cells, tissues, and organs that we're not seeing a whole lot here in this physical one, but I believe it is kind of covered in there a little bit. Asexual reproduction. I don't think that's covered in here. Sexual reproduction and meiosis. Skeletal system. We do have some of that, right? We have skeletal system down here. Muscular system right here. Central nervous system. I'm not sure if that's what this one is. No, this one we saw. That one's down here. It is here. Central nervous system is that one that's in this one. I'm not sure, but this is human mind. So it's probably renal system. Well, maybe that's a more in-depth bit because, you have central and peripheral, right? And then nervous system activity. And then circulatory system, that one's here. It takes 2 lessons here, heart and blood, but they have it in one. Again, it is in one lesson, but it will probably cover heart and blood involved. Digestive system, that's 2 here. Renal system, that's included here. And we covered that one. Immune system. Then we have, I think that's probably covered in these germs and things. And then when it gets down into the DNA, that's like genes and unique features, like loosely covered. This is going to go more in depth for sure. We've got 3. We got a lab and 2 things on 3 lessons and a lab on DNA and genetics. And then protein synthesis, probably not included in here. But then like health and wellness we're here, we talk about vitamins and hydration, the basics of nutrition, that kind of thing. And then when it comes to health in the human mind, you have the brain. Okay, so this central nervous system, peripheral nervous system is probably a lot of these senses and stuff, because I remember it covering senses, memory and emotion, social health. That probably comes into health and wellness, connection, emotional health, all of that. So 3 units are pulled in. I don't know how in depth they are, but I know that the sexual reproduction is not super in depth intentionally, and they do have a separate unit for that. So if that was fun for you, let me know. If that was helpful in any way, please give me a thumbs up, or let me know what you thought about that. I had a good time diving in, and I did it because I really wanted to see, to know for sure if I was going to have my kiddo do this one or if I was going to have them do the science units, and to see that 12 units were pulled into this 1 year just kind of really sold me. I liked that. And then because finding the time to do 12 units, typically if you do, I guess if we did, typically you lay out a year with the science. In these younger grades, they say do 2 days a week, right? 2 days for science, 2 days for history. In high school, they need to be doing it 4 days a week. So they say 3 to 5 units at 2 days a week. That could be 6 to 10 units in a year for the high school level. So the real question is, could you do a high school course for your kiddo with these units? Yeah, probably you could, because if you got the 6 to 10 units done in the year, or 12, like this completes 12, and I highly recommend doing this. So 11 plus this, because again, I highly recommend that. I may even have my kiddo do it again when they get to that portion, just for a review. You could use these units to do a high school course for your kiddo, because it does have reading. It does have them do the journal and everything. However, seeing this, I do see that they would be missing out on learning the note taking, learning the study practice, the study skills, learning the test taking, and then the lab experience, especially if you have a post-high school plan that requires college or anything that requires a science with the lab. It's here. It's in there for you, and it's video. Like, you don't have to do it hands-on. You could do it through a video, and they still get the good lab experience. So I am 100% sold on doing the high school biology for a high school level student. But again, if you don't have that path or that requirement or that concern, and none of those things that I mentioned that sold me on doing this, like the note taking and test taking and all that, if none of that really matters to you, by all means, do these. That'd be totally right. Now, cost wise, I'm not sure if it's more cost effective to do these, because you'd have to buy each of these units, right? And you want them doing the reading and all of that. So there's that. There's my 2 cents on that for you to decide, because you get to do what works best for your kids. I would love to know if, what your thoughts are after going through this with me. Like, would you do this for your high schooler, or are you going to have them do this one? Or are you limited by your state? Does your state have requirements, or does your kids' post-high school path have requirements? Now, mine does not require accreditation, nor does it require specifics on that. So I could have built a course for my kiddo for science using these, as was my plan. But I'm just so excited for this. So anyways, I don't know if I introduced myself. Yes, I did at the beginning. So again, let me know. Video requests, questions, drop that all down in the comments. And if you've made it this far, you're awesome. I appreciate you for being here. Let me know if you made it this far all the way to the end. And yeah, I will catch you in the next one. I do have one more video to do today. I'm going to be doing the new music appreciation elective course, which if you're here for high school, maybe it does not apply to you unless you have younger kids. But if you are interested, I'll see you over there. Bye.